Right then, this is now my Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker fight prediction and preview now for you guys. This fight is, of course, the co-main event to Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol 2, the rematch, February 22nd. Let's get right into it then. So, yes, I believe Joseph Parker is going to win this fight, but it's one that could sway either way if I'm being real. But I'm confident in Joseph Parker. I'm confident in Parker to win. But I'm going to break down how both guys can win this fight. And yeah, let's get right into it. So I think this one's interesting because you've got two different kind of styles here. And again, this is another fight on the card where there's, two completely different styles clashing, going at it. So this one's exciting. And there's quite a bit of animosity between the two as well. Could that play a factor in the fight? Could emotions be brought out here? That is something that is interesting in my opinion. But yeah, I think overall, I think a big thing that I've said in the build-up to this is that I think Daniel Dubois struggles against a guy with a good jab. And I think that's what Joseph Parker's got. I think Joseph Park is very good behind his lead hand, especially in his recent fights as well. Especially, it's got better and better and better since he's been working under Andy Lee. And, it was clear in that Deontay Wilder fight, Joseph Parker's lead hand was dominant in that fight and was able to push the pace and be able to really confuse Deontay Wilder, set traps nicely, exactly the same as in the Zhilei Zhang fight. That's where, we saw some elite traps and baits being set by Joseph Parker in that fight. And I see that being similar here. But thing about Daniel Dubois is that he don't really think in there. So that is something as well, which I think will favor Parker, because if you don't think too much in there, then I think you're in trouble when you're against a real good thinker in Joseph Parker. But it could also be a good thing for Daniel Dubois, because Dubois is not afraid when he's in there. Dubois, is relentless to get to where he wants to be. And we fully saw that in that Filip Hrgović fight. Dubois was relentless to get to where he wants to be and get around that jab of Hrgović, with a few headbutts in there as well, though. But, Dubois' hooks to the body are good. Dubois' hooks upstairs are good. And I feel like Dubois is going to come into this fight and, really try and get an early storm going. But I feel like Joseph Parker will be able to weather that storm. But I do see Dubois trying to start quicker in this fight. Although, though, if I'm being honest, Dubois is not an extreme. He's not known for being an extremely quick starter. I mean, it was a quick start in the AJ fight for him, a very quick start for him. But a big thing is that I don't know what AJ was doing in that fight, but Dubois was playing fantastic to take advantage of that, and that's what an elite fighter can do. And Dubois took advantage of that in the AJ fight. Dubois started pretty slow in the Hrgović fight because Hrgović was good behind that lead hand early on. I think, Dubois started pretty slow in that Usyk fight as well, but, everyone starts slow against Usyk. They're hesitant against him. I think Dubois as well, we got success against Baby Miller early on, but at times, it took him a while. It took Dubois a while to fully get into his groove. And I feel like you never know, that could be similar here. But Parker's not like a really, quick pace fighter anyway, though. So that could be, a good opportunity for Daniel Dubois to get an early storm going and try and blast Parker out of there. But I think a big thing is, though, Parker's very good at, keeping the fight at his own pace and, staying composed when he is being put under pressure. And, if you want to get Joseph Parker out of there, though, the thing is that, you need to beat Joseph Parker down in order to get him out of there. Like, we saw in the Anthony Joshua fight, the ref was, splitting it up a lot. I mean, Anthony Joshua couldn't really, get Joseph Parker extremely hurt in that fight. It's hard to, fully pin Parker down and hurt him. Dillian White, he did drop Parker twice, but it takes you a bit of time to get Parker into the position where you want him. And when Joe Joyce finished him, Joe Joyce had to put a beating on Joseph Parker for 11 rounds before we got him out, 10 rounds before we got him out there in the 11th. So, it takes a while for you to break down Parker. You need to break him down. You can't blast him out of there early. And I feel like that's what Dubois is going to do. And that could be Daniel Dubois tiring himself out in the end. And that could play a big factor here. Dubois could tire himself out because Parker's good at a slow pace, at fighting at a slow pace, keeping it slow and being able to outwork you over 12 rounds. That's Parker's style. He's very good at being able to outwork you. And I feel like in the end, that is what will happen. I think Parker's going to build his way into the fight as we go on. That jab's going to get better and better and better. But again, though, Dubois got a different kind of power from what we've seen recently, though. I do think at this moment in time, Daniel Dubois is the hardest hitter in the heavyweight division. It's either him or Zhang, but I'd probably give it to I'd probably give it to Dubois, because I think the explosive combinations that Dubois puts together is much more dangerous than what Zhang is. So I feel like Dubois, if I'm being real, is probably the most dangerous opponent stylistically for Joseph Parker, possibly that we've actually seen. But I still feel like Parker can win this fight 100% either way. Stylistically, it's difficult, but again, there's also stylistically that Joseph Parker could be Daniel Dubois' second toughest opponent, which obviously you sit number one. So again, I feel like both guys stylistically on paper, could be both guys' most difficult opponent, and it's going to be interesting to see how both guys handle that, because, yeah, as I said, I feel like Daniel Dubois really struggles against these, thinker fighters who, think about defense a lot, think about, think about their, very well measured attacks. And you've got like an elite guy like Usyk, who's above everyone in the heavyweight division, but you've also got someone like Joseph Parker, who's very good at that as well. And I feel like that's going to be difficult for Daniel Dubois, because Joseph Parker, I don't think, is going to want to exchange too much with Daniel Dubois in this fight. And I don't think Daniel Dubois is going to like that too much, because when Daniel Dubois does get most of his success, it's because, people are exchanging with him. Anthony Joshua couldn't get away from the exchanges from Daniel Dubois. Dubois and Miller were basically exchanging the whole fight. Dubois, once he was able to drag Hrgovic into his game, they were exchanging. Dubois got the better of him. So, yeah, and I feel like as well, Daniel Dubois, I feel like, in that Joe Joyce fight, he was able to get the better of a lot of good exchanges in that fight. But Joe Joyce's chin was just really fresh in that fight, and Daniel Dubois was very young at the time. But yeah, but the thing is, though, Parker's not going to want to exchange for Dubois. Parker's going to want to completely, outthink him and, try and go in there and score Daniel Dubois. And I feel like that's what's going to happen over time in the fight, because I do think the overall experience from Joseph Parker could play a factor here as well. But I just feel like he's on a roll right now, and I feel like he's the game plan that him and Andy Lee are going to put together. It's going to be very bloody good to see, in my opinion. But yeah, I do feel like Joseph Parker can hit harder than what people think. But will Daniel Dubois be able to handle that? I feel like in this fight, I don't think Dubois will quit, but he might mentally quit. I feel like Parker, he can be mentally draining in there to be in there with. We saw it in the Zhang fight. Parker was very mentally draining for Zhang a lot of times in that fight, if I'm being completely honest. And he, mentally drained out Wilder in there as well. I feel like, Parker's going to look to approach the fight in a similar manner to that Wilder fight. But it's going to be difficult to back Daniel Dubois up. 100% it will be. Daniel Dubois is very good at coming forward well, but can Daniel Dubois keep up that pace? That's the thing. But I think if Parker can push Dubois back, I don't think Dubois likes fighting backwards. I said that in the video I made on the fight yesterday. So I think that's definitely something that will play a factor if Parker can push Dubois backwards. But in the clinches, though, overall, I do feel like Daniel Dubois is probably the stronger guy than Parker. And for Daniel Dubois, I feel like he's going to have to use his strength in this fight. Without a shadow of a doubt. Parker is a big and strong guy as well, though, but Daniel Dubois, the amount of muscle he's got on him, I feel like he's a really, really strong guy who, can bully you quite a few times in a fight, to be honest with you. And Dubois needs to use his strength. He needs to get the better in those clinches of Joseph Parker and, get those first punches in on the way out of the clinch as well. Catch Parker off guard as much as he possibly can. But yeah, if I'm being honest with you, though, I feel like it is going to be very difficult for Joseph Parker to, deal with the combinations of Daniel Dubois early on. I feel like he'll be able to, but it's going to be very difficult for him to. I feel like right now, Daniel Dubois could be one of the best combination punchers in the heavyweight division right now. His combination is deadly, and his power in them is deadly as well. And he's, good with his explosive moments. I feel like He can be predictable for someone like Joseph Parker at times, though. That's the thing. And I feel like Parker might be able to read him at times and, take shots on the gloves. I feel like Joseph Parker is going to have to, have a high guard. I feel like the thing with Joseph Parker at times is that he does carry his lead hand low. And we saw that a lot in the Zhang fight, but I do feel like Parker does that when he feels comfortable. I think when you're fighting Daniel Dubois, who has good volume, you can't afford to feel fully 100% comfortable in there with him. You always need to be aware of Daniel Dubois when you're in there, because he is pretty relentless, if I'm honest. And overall, I feel like Dubois got a good chin. It's just his general mentality, which I think is a problem. But yeah, I feel like with Joseph Parker, when he fought Wilder, he didn't really keep his lead hand low because he knew of the power of Deontay Wilder's right hand. Against Zhang, he did have that lead hand low at times, but that might be because Zhang was a southpaw as well, though. But either way, when he did have the lead hand low at times, though, he was getting tagged by Zhang. So I don't think Parker's going to make that same mistake again, keeping his lead hand a bit too long when he's coming forward, especially against someone like Dubois, because he will be punished for it. But I don't think he'll do that this time. But if he does, then it's a great opening for Daniel Dubois, and Dubois will punish him for it. I do feel like Dubois' jab has improved as we've gone on, but I feel like Joseph Parker's counter jab is very good, and I feel like Joseph Parker will be able to beat him to the punch with that. Yeah, I just feel like at times in this fight, as we go on and on, Joseph Parker is going to be a few steps ahead of Daniel Dubois, and that's going to lead to a Joseph Parker win overall. So yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts on the fight. Anyway, well, that's what I think will happen in the fight. Let's see what happens on Saturday night. Thanks for watching.